So next, we're going to go to Europe. We're going to go to BlaBlaCar. And if you haven't tried them yet, you should the next time you're in Europe or one of the many other places that we're going to talk about soon. They're the most successful long-distance ride-sharing service. So when you sign up for BlaBlaCar, you have to describe yourself. OK, anyone else in the audience a blah? If you don't know what that means, it means you don't like to talk in the car. Just don't talk to me. Maybe you're like me, and you like to talk a little bit, but not the whole time. And then we probably all know someone in our life who we'd call a blah, 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 and that's someone who just talks non-stop. So why is this important? Well, if you are running a hugely successful long-distance ride-sharing service, where the average trip is about 200 miles, you're going to quickly learn that if you stick a blah and a blah, blah, blah together in a car for 200 miles, you are going to have two very unhappy customers. But if you have this algorithm and you know what questions to ask, you'll know that you can just stick two blah, blah, blahs together, and maybe you've built a lifelong friendship. So let's talk about how BlaBlaCar works with one of its most popular routes. Let's say that I'm a driver. I have my Renault. I live in Paris, and I'm going to go back to my hometown of Rennes, where I grew up. Maybe it's for the holidays. Maybe I'm just making an impromptu visit to a friend. And I'm actually going to have to spend a lot of money on gas and tolls to get there. It's going to be a long drive. And in fact, the trip may be so expensive that I can't even go as often as I'd like to. So I can just launch the BlaBlaCar app, and it'll match me with other people going the same way. I don't actually make money doing this, but I can offset all of my costs of gas and tolls. And I can sell the other 3 seats in my Renault to 3 other people who are going on the same trip. So this is a much cheaper alternative. So a train ticket would cost about 3 times as much. A plane ticket would cost about 6 times as much. And if you've ever had that experience of buying a train or plane ticket at absolutely that last minute when it's so critical, you know that those costs could be way more. So it's a good option to have. And this is the BlaBlaCar team. They're headquartered in Paris, and it sounds like a really fun place to work. One of my favorite programs I heard about is called the BlaBlaSwap. So they have offices all over the globe because they reach so many users. And if you do a BlaBlaSwap, what you can do is go work in another company's office for a week. And this helps not only you to have fun, but also to exchange ideas and best practices between offices. So BlaBlaCar has made massive expansions recently. They're now reaching about 2 million people every single month. They have about 20 million members, and they're reaching 19 different countries. So they're all over Europe, but also in Turkey, Russia, and most recently, Mexico and India as well. And here are the benefits that BlaBlaCar can bring. So we talked about the money savings before, and that's great. But it also helps with the environment, and it helps with traffic problems as well. The average BlaBlaCar actually has 2.8 people, up from a typical average in Europe of about 1.7 people per car. And BlaBlaCar has had Android apps for a long time, since back in 2010. And they found that their mobile experience means people can book rides easily at the very last minute. And because more than half of their users are actually on Android, they've invested a lot in making some great Android experiences. So they made an Android Wear app here. It allows you to see when someone is trying to link up with you to arrange a ride. And they did a material design refresh of their app recently as well. It's gotten some great user feedback. They're also going to add a new feature soon called Meet My Co-Rider. So this is a neat feature where it'll allow co-riders to temporarily share their locations. So this way, they can see each other as dots on the map, and it makes it a lot easier to try to meet up with somebody. So the CEO of BlaBlaCar says that people join because they want to save money. That makes sense. That's a logical reason. They want to travel more often, and they don't want to spend too much. But they keep using it, not because of the money, but because it allows them to make social connections that they never would have had before. I thought the BlaBlaCar was going to be basically just college students, right? That's kind of who you'd expect to take it. And there are some college students, but if you look at their demographics, they're actually reaching all sorts of different age brackets. Typically, actually, it's the older drivers who have the cars and the younger riders who pay to ride. And so it's an interesting way to create these different intergenerational connections that never would have actually happened before. So when you use BlaBlaCar, you save money, and you usually get to know somebody, and you get a good story. So I want to tell you one of these. So there was a guy who had just retired. He had used to have a big car to drive around his son, who did a lot of sports and had a lot of sports gear that he needed to carry around. When his son went off to school, he retired and said, I want to spend more time in St. Malo sailing my boat. Sounds great. But unfortunately, he realized that that was going to be really expensive and difficult for him to afford. So he discovered that BlaBlaCar would allow him to share rides with different people. And that was great. He got to do a lot more sailing. But over time, he realized the thing that contributed most to having an enjoyable retirement was not more time on his boat, but he created 2 new social networks, one in Paris and one in St. Malo, with all the people that he'd met using BlaBlaCar. So this is how BlaBlaCar is connecting the world. They're making travel more affordable and creating new social connections because of information being able to share easily between people.